All rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the 2021 Acushnet Town Meeting. My name is Roger Cabral. I'm the town moderator. I've been informed that a quorum is present. Typical quorum 75, but due to COVID, the quorum for the night has been reduced to 50, and I think we're well beyond both of those numbers, as best I can tell. I've reviewed a return of the warrant attesting to the fact that it has been appropriately distributed in accordance with our bylaws. I'd like to start, please, with an introduction of the people in front of the room, and start to my left, please.
I'm Jeffrey Blake, your town council.
I'm Dave DeRoche, Selectman.
David Wonar, Board of Selectmen.
And let's move to the front with the town clerk, please.
Town administrator. Delgado, finance.
St. Jean Finance Committee. John Howcroft, Finance Committee.
Thank you. And some of the mics, I'm not sure if you're hearing all of them out there, but when we get people to speak during the course of the meeting, we'll make sure that they're turned up a little bit better for you. I want to start today's meeting with some important recognition. The podium I'm standing behind today is the first time it's been used for a town meeting in the town of Acushnet. This podium was constructed at Old Colony High School by a student in the woodworking department at Old Colony, and is being dedicated to the memory of Bob Francis, who served as our town moderator from 1981 to 2017, which is 36 years. When the podium came in, when it first came in, it says 1981 to 2018, and I looked at that and said, "Oh boy, we got a mistake. We got to send it back." But at the 2018 town meeting, Nick Gomes was serving in his first year as town moderator, and he brought Mr. Francis back up to help him moderate the meeting. So Mr. Francis gets credit for 2018 as well, and the plaque is correct in my mind. So it's the plaque says 1981 to 2017. And that was, I think, great of Mr. Gomes to invite Mr. Francis to help him officiate the first meeting. There have been some really tense times in this room over the years, and we talk about a lot of things as a community, and there's some, the moderator's responsible for trying to keep the discussion going in a direction and keeping people cool and orderly. And I remember sitting out there and seeing Mr. Francis have to make some very difficult decisions, and was always very thankful that they were his decisions and not mine. But he was always an example of grace under pressure, and was exactly what a town moderator should be. And as I prepared for this meeting and thought about the things we were doing and the things I was going to say, images of Bob Francis in my head, how he did it, how he said it, the way things flowed, and just really an inspiration to me. So I do want to acknowledge Mrs. Francis and her daughter, who are here with us today to see the dedication of this podium. Family and friends are here. Thank you for sharing your husband with us for so long. Really appreciate that. Need to acknowledge also Nick Gomes and Evelyn Belay, who coordinated this project with Old Colony, worked with the school to get this done and get this delivered to us. Need to acknowledge also Doug Sims and Miles Nelson. Mr. Sims is the teacher in the woodworking program, and Miles Nelson, is Miles here? I tried to get Miles here. I don't think Miles wanted to be here with us, but I don't think Miles understands the significance of what he's done, what he's done for the town of Acushnet. I mean, this podium's going to serve this community for 100 years. I'm going to be gone. Miles is going to be gone, and this podium is going to be here acknowledging Bob Francis's service to this community, and I hope, please relay back to Miles, oh, I'm being filmed. Please help Miles appreciate how important what he did is to the town of Acushnet, and it's great that he's a resident of the town of Acushnet. And if you know Miles Nelson or his family, please thank them. Thank you also for being with us today, Mrs. Francis, and it's a small token of the town's appreciation delivered from the Board of Selectmen. So I'll bring this over to you. Talk amongst yourselves. And the plaques, this says, "In memoriam, Robert E. Francis, Town Moderator, 1981 to 2018. The fire chief has also asked me to let you know that there's a COVID vaccination happening tomorrow. Tuesday, it'll be the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, 2 to 7 p.m. at the trailer behind the Council on Aging, so no appointments necessary. Walk right up and be vaccinated. Chief, is that anything to add to that, or? Okay, thank you. The chief's done a great job in this community of keeping us informed as to vaccinations and testing, and appreciate what you've done for the community as well, Chief. Thank you. Okay, on to the business part of the meeting. All right, first an overview, sort of, I don't want to call this the rules, but let's call it an overview. This is your meeting. As Acushnet residents, this is your meeting, and your participation's encouraged and expected, so know that. I will be reading the warrant articles. I'll not be reading them word for word, but I'm going to give you a summary of each article. The warrant articles are available at the entrances. If you don't have one, grab one, and it'll, so you can know what we're discussing and we're voting on. If you want to speak on any article, please line up behind the microphone. We only have one here. There's one here. Please line up behind the microphone, socially distanced, obviously, and you can get to, address any article. Identify yourself, name and address. And I said this last time, and I mean it, you have an absolute right to understand what you're voting on. So some of these articles are written in language that's required to meet legal requirements and may not be necessarily clear to you as you're sitting there reading it. So if you have a question, ask a question. We want you to understand. If you don't understand, other people likely don't understand. So there are only good questions in this room. You need to understand what you're voting on. That said, we need to limit the discussion. Can't go all night. If everybody's coming up and saying, I support this, I support this, I support this, we're gonna try to move along. So all comments are through the moderator. So when you're at the microphone, you're speaking to me. We don't encourage debate between individuals. You ask a question to me, answers come through me. Everyone can listen to the conversations through me, but all comments and all answers are through me. Sometimes, occasionally, there'll be times when a back and forth conversation may make sense between a resident and a department head. And, if that facilitates efficiency, that'll be allowed, but there's a difference between question and answer and debate. We don't allow debate. We have conversations. Okay, moving on. All votes here are final. So just think it's important to say that. When we vote on an article and we move forward, we don't go backwards. We'll only reconsider an article if there's been an error made, if facts come out later that may not have been presented at the time, or we discover an error in the article. That's unlikely. Absent any objection, that's the way we're going to move forward. Once we vote, we go forward. We do not go backwards. So here we go into the articles. And we're going to start by aggregating a number of articles, and we've identified 7 articles that are routine to town meeting every year. They're routine to the business of the town. We believe them to be non-controversial. There are things that we need to vote in order to conduct the business of the town for the coming year. So I'm going to present those briefly, we're going to vote those in bulk, and, in an attempt to move the meeting along. If there's any article that we're proposing to vote in bulk that you would prefer to discuss in more detail, just yell hold and raise your hand, and we'll pull that out and we'll come back and discuss it. Again, you've got the right to understand everything you're voting on, and we're not trying to move anything through quickly. If you have a question, say hold, and we'll come back to it. So the articles, and just very quickly, and I'll come back to them and read them. It's going to be Article 1, 7, 8, 9, 28, 29, and 32. And don't go looking for them. We'll do them one at a time together. Article 1, to see if the town will accept the reports of its officers, boards, departments, committees, and commissions as printed in the 2020 annual report. That report's usually available. I haven't seen it here tonight. Is the annual report here, Pam? It's not here yet. Oh, it's not ready yet. Okay. So the annual report is the book that's prepared every year. So we're basically, it's going to be prepared, it's going to be done, it's going to be printed, and it's going to be distributed, and it's the formality that we're accepting it as a community. So if it was here tonight, we wouldn't be editing it. Article 7, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for state and federal grants and to expend any money received, routine. Article 8, to allow the town to accept money, Chapter 90 money, that's our road repair and infrastructure money provided by the state, to allow the Board of Selectmen to accept and expend that money on behalf of the town. Article 9, to empower the Board of Selectmen to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of revenue for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021. Periodically, as a community, we need to borrow on a short-term basis, and as a community, we empower the Board of Selectmen through the town treasurer to do that on our behalf. Article 28, to see if the town will vote to authorize the cemetery board to perform work in the cemeteries and to allow the Board of Selectmen to determine the compensation paid to those individuals. Article 29, very similar with the Recreation Committee, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to allow the Recreation Commission to perform work in the park and allow the Board of Selectmen to determine compensation for that work. And Article 32, to allow the Board of Library Trustees to sell for the sum of $1 the discarded books and periodicals of the Acushnet Public Library to the Friends of the Acushnet Public Library. All of these generally standard articles. Any objection to approving these with one vote? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation?
Articles unanimously.
So, in summary, approving with one vote Articles 1, 7, 8, 9, 28, 29, and 32. Any further discussion? All in favor? A show of hands, I'm sorry. Any opposed? Seeing no one opposed, we'll call that unanimous. Okay, going into the warrant, Article 2. Article 1's done. Article 2, to see if the town will raise and appropriate a transfer from available funds the sum of $11,000 to be added to the snow removal ice control account or take any other action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $11,000 to the FY21 budget line item, snow removal, ice control, to fund the current year deficit created by the winter snow removal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation.
Finance Committee recommends this article unanimously in the amount of
So the article is to approve $11,000 to be added to our snow ice control account. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Show of hands, thank you. Any opposed? Being no one opposed, we're going to call that unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Article 3 is the town budget. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to first take a motion for the budget as a whole. So the Finance Committee has spent the last several months working on this budget with the departments in town, and there's a recommended budget that's being presented to you. So what we're going to do is first take a motion on that budget as a whole, and then we're going to go back through that budget department by department. And if anyone has an objection or wants to further discuss any individual budget, you would say hold, and we would go back to that budget and discuss any budgets that are held. If you want to hold a budget for further discussion, just say hold, raise your hand so I can, in general, identify where the hold came from. You don't need to identify yourself for that, but we will come back to that individual budget. So first of all, let's get a motion on the budget as a whole so we can get this into discussion. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town fix salaries of all elected officials fiscal year 2022 and vote to raise and appropriate funds for the payment of said salaries and compensation, including the funding of the town's obligations under the collective bargaining agreement. Payment, debt, and interest provided for the reserve fund and for the charge expenses and outlays several town departments for the ensuing 12-month period through June 30th, 2022. All is set forth in the budget presented by the Finance Committee, and as funding, therefore, to raise and appropriate from taxation sum of $20,001,886, appropriate the sum $7,979,615 from projected state aid receipts, appropriate the sum of $3,591,215 from estimated local receipts, transfer from the EMS reserve receipts account sum of $515,876, transfer from the water special revenue fund surplus sum of $60,000, transfer sum of $1,550 from the fund balance reserve debt premiums, all to fund the budget as recommended by the Finance Committee as shown in the final column of Article 3 in the warrant, May 10th, 2021 annual town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. St. Jean. Is there a second? Thank you. Finance Committee recommendation. I'm assuming you support this.
Supported unanimous.
What we're going to do now is we're going to go through the budget, and we're on page, might have different numbering. I'm on page 13 of my book, but it's again, Article 3. We've got the detailed budget. I'm going to read each line item. I'm going to read the Finance Committee recommendation. If you'd like to discuss any individual budget, please say hold, raise your hand. We'll continue on, and we'll circle back to whatever's held. Okay? So, first up, General Government.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir, Mr. Gaston.
The detailed budget is not inside that book. If any of you are missing, this is a detailed budget right here. It's got all the different budgets. That's a detailed budget. This is just what you see inside of here. It's just a blanket budget. So it gives you salaries and expenses. But if there's any questionable line item you want to question, it's inside a detailed budget, and I believe the town administrator made copies of the packets when you came in. And if you didn't have it, they're all individualized budgets, and it's all detailed for you to review. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Gaston. The line items I'm reading are a summary of the details there, what makes the town warrant, summary numbers, and I'll be reading the summary numbers, but the detailed numbers upload to the summary numbers, so if you have questions on the detail, that would be a good reason to hold as well. So, starting line item 1110, Reserve Fund, $501,838. Hold on Reserve. Next line, Town Meeting and Elections, $8,500. Moderator, 2 line items. Salary total, $725. Expense total, $100. Selectmen, salary total, $234,079. Expense total, $26,000. I will pause after every budget for a little bit to give you time to respond if you want. Finance Committee, salary total, $3,500. Expense total, $400. Town Accountant, salary total, $156,133. Expense total, $38,400. Assessors, $117,295. Salary total. Expense total, $61,600. Town Treasurer Collector, salary total, $179,103. Expense total, $37,700. Town Council, expense total, $84,500. Technology, salary total, $25,319. Expense total, $112,600. Town Clerk, salary total, $136,456. Expense total, $5,750. Board of Registrars, salary total, $8,000. Expense total, $9,950. Conservation Commission, salary total, $73,915. Expense total, $14,350. Soil Board, salary total, $1,900. Expense total, $200. Planning Board, salary total, $70,740. Expense total, $820. Board of Appeals, salary total, $3,000. Expense total, $3,150. Town Building, salary total, $104,464. Expense total, $116,000. Next page. Police Department, salary total, $2,211,566. Expense total, $302,185. Fire EMS, salary total, $920,758. Expense total, $154,156. Building Department, salary total, $134,070. Expense total, $28,750. Sealer Weights and Measures, salary total, $1,169. Emergency Management Agency, salary total, $3,299. Expense total, $14,550. Animal Control, salary total, $50,168. Expense total, $6,740. Forestry, salary total, $600. Expense total, $14,000. Old Colony Regional, $2,109,632. Acushnet School Department, $15,073,651. Old Acushnet School Department. Department of Public Works Highway, salary total, $401,802. Expense total, $509,700. Snow and ice removal, $110,000. Street lighting, $20,000. CMAS, salary total, $19,269. Expense total, $1,108,500. Cemetery, salary total, $5,464. Expense total, $1,325. Water Fund, Reserve Fund, expense total, $60,000. Department of Public Works Water, salary total, $198,124. Expense total, $1,408,100. Next page. Water Fund Retirement Debt, $206,991. Board of Health, salary total, $170,628. Expense total, $16,975. Council on Aging, salary total, $122,052. Expense total, $21,240. Veterans, salary total, $20,772. Expense total, $226,445. Library Department, salary total, $226,984. Expense total, $55,149. Recreation Department, $20,393. Park Department, salary total, $21,000. Expense total, $19,167. Historical Commission, $7,000. Miscellaneous, salary total, $5,000. Expense total, $11,973. Debt service, retirement of debt. Expense total, $267,000. Interest, $122,901. Next page. Pensions, $1,728,108. Insurance expense total, $1,876,300. Total budget proposed, $32,150,142. All right, we've got two budgets that were held. Going back to the first budget, reserve fund was held. Anyone who wants to comment on the reserve fund, I'd invite you to the microphone at the front of the room, and please identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Can you hear me with this?
I think that could be turned up a little bit more.
Hi, thank you, Mr.
Better.
Moderator. My name is Jennifer Downing. I live on 11 Evergreen Drive. I would like to make a motion to amend the Finance Committee's recommendation and increase the school department's fiscal year 22 budget by $393,967, which is a 2.6% increase. $351,838 would be taken from the town's reserve fund, number 010110-578000, and the remaining $34,577 would be taken from free cash.
Well, just one more time, what was your proposed total addition to the school department budget?
It would be $393,967. That's a 2.6% increase.
$393,967. Thank you.
Yes.
Second to the motion. Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Discussion. So we've got a motion to amend the school department's budget, increase the school department's budget by $393,967. Also part of that motion is moving some of that money off from the reserve fund, which was the first line item we looked at, and moving some from free cash, which is not presented in the town budget. So with that summary discussion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Downing. Like I said, I'm the chair of the school committee. I'm also a parent of 2 students that attend Ford Middle School. The school committee proposed a modest 2.6% budget increase this year, an increase that is reasonable and consistent with past budgets that have been approved by the town. Within that budget, the superintendent, advised by educators at every level of the district, made very specific recommendations that would support the academic success of our students. The recommendations that were proposed would support, the recommendations that were proposed also took into account the learning loss and academic challenges that our students are facing and will continue to face as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. These recommendations included critical positions like a reading specialist, an academic coach, as well as necessary resources to ensure new and improved curriculum continues to be rolled out in the district. We've known for several years that our curriculum is outdated and does not have the level of rigor to position our children to be competitive and successful as they move into high school. All of these issues have been discussed in detail at public school committee meetings. I was disappointed and frankly a little shocked to learn that the Finance Committee disregarded the district's recommendations and level funded the budget this year. Even worse, we were the only department in the town that was level funded. And for those of you that are unaware, this means that the district has the same amount of money appropriated to it as last year. A level funded budget is essentially a decrease when you factor in contractual increases for our teachers and staff and our other fixed increases. This decision is irresponsible and will have a detrimental impact, in my opinion, on the town's two greatest assets, our school and our children. People do not move to Acushnet to get a job. They don't move to Acushnet to start a business. They move here to buy a house or to build a house in a quiet, safe town and raise their family, in large part because of the school system. If we keep disinvesting in our schools, as we've been doing for several years, people will no longer choose Acushnet. Our children deserve the right to a quality education, and in a town like Acushnet, it's disgraceful that we have to keep fighting this battle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Downing.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, Select Board, Finance Committee members, and Town Administration. My name is Paula Bailey, and I am the school superintendent. I'd like to reiterate what Mrs. Downing just shared. This budget process was a very inclusive process that began with our teachers, our principals, our administrators. Everybody had input into the budget. It was done in a very thoughtful way, and we had some guiding priorities. Updated curriculum that is highly rated and rigorous. If you've been paying attention to our school committee meetings, you know that our curriculum, as a result of the curriculum audit, is outdated, and we need highly rated research-based curriculum. Another guiding priority, enhance curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Maintain and enhance the district's technology infrastructure and equipment. We have to maintain what we have. We went one-to-one this year during the pandemic. Strengthen response to intervention and supporting all learners. Address learning loss during the pandemic. That was another big priority for this budget. Increase the capacity to address social and emotional learning. We know that many of our children have anxiety and have social and emotional issues as a result of this pandemic. Support professional development to enhance student learning and maintain reasonable class sizes. As I read the finance reading this evening in the packet, I have to respectfully disagree with many of the sentiments about the school's budget. We were never asked to present our district strategy. What we did is we highlighted our district strategy into our budget presentation. We are always more than happy to share our district strategy. We are very transparent. We're more than happy to share data. Whatever it is you want to know, we are an open book. It's really hard, in my opinion, for a finance committee to understand all of the school department's needs in only 2 meetings. We were never contacted for additional information after those 2 meetings. We have not had any opportunities to have working sessions. We do beg to differ that our strategy is very meaningful. The school committee, who are elected officials, have the job of setting the budget. Finance committee should be giving us the bottom line and moving forward. I believe this can be done in a more collaborative way that is not insulting to the school committee or the school administration. Our budget was a very inclusive process that included teachers and administrators across the board. Our district strategy is being judged off 2 meetings. I have a hard time understanding that as a Acushnet's district strategy being looked at that way when it's used as an exemplar in the state. So what I did is I sent out a quick survey because, like Mrs. Downing, I too was shocked that the Finance Committee is recommending a level funded budget. I sent out a survey to all of the master superintendents across the state to inquire about their budget. We had 77 districts respond. 97.4% of districts are getting an increase. They've recommended an increase or it's been approved, and half the districts said that their budgets have already been approved. But the others do not anticipate an issue at their town meetings, as they have the support of their Board of Selectmen and Finance Committees. Acushnet will fall into the 2.6% of those who will not get an increase if we go along with the Finance Committee's recommendation. I believe Acushnet is better than that. A neighboring superintendent wrote, "The Board of Selectmen and the Advisory and Finance Committee may have their opinions, but they do not dictate to the school committee what the budget increase ought to be. We work together and we try to present a reasonable budget, but my school committee is adamant about proposing a budget that is best for us. And I can assure you that we have a school committee that wants what is best for our students." If the town can't afford it, and we've been told that the funds are available, it is a good year to tackle the other one-time financial issues rather than trying to save money and push problems down the road. Our kids can't afford us to continue to push problems down the road. This committee has asked for things year after year, and year after year, these things continue to be cut. We should be looking at this budget as a recovery budget. Yes, we did have a savings with tuition, but how many more years do we have to ask for a reading specialist, for example, a library media specialist? Our kids get one chance at each grade level. We can no longer afford to put this off. Our data showed pre-COVID, we presented that we were low in reading scores, and now we know there's additional learning loss during the pandemic. A 2.6% increase is a modest increase. We made many cuts prior to presenting this to Finance Committee. Many towns, neighboring towns, have up to 8.9% increase. Dartmouth, 3.5% increase, and the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen support that. Marion and Rochester both have budget increases with increased staff. The ESSER funds that we're getting, which are grant funds, that's the federal stimulus money, they're intended to supplement the budget, help deal with learning loss, mental health issues, additional COVID related, and they're really unknown to us at the time. Those funds are available over the next couple of years, and it would be responsible for us to spread them out through the couple of years moving forward. We also have surplus money as we're reimbursed for air purifiers. We had less students. We had a huge increase in schoolers because of COVID. So we're planning to give town money responsible with that surplus. And again, we hope to work. So whatever happens here tonight, this is democracy. Let the taxpayers decide what is best for their taxes, sitting in a reserve fund or helping our children. I just hope that moving forward, the town committees certainly come together and work for the best interest of not only our children, but our town. When you have a committee publicly criticize another committee during a meeting, that does not help our children. My hope as we move forward is that we can learn to trust each other, our elected officials who are hired to work. Education is our most valuable resource for our children.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. I do just want to summarize what's going on, just for clarification. So we've got an amendment. We made a motion. The motion was made originally to vote the budget, and we've got a proposed amendment to the budget. And that amendment would move money between two existing budget line items. So we would move from the reserve fund, with, as was originally proposed, $501,838. We would reduce that $501,838. We'd reduce that by $359,390 and move those dollars into the school department budget. We'd also, from outside of the budget, the so-called free cash, would take $34,577 from free cash. So if this amendment were to be approved, it would increase the budget by $34,577 net. No, you've got different numbers. What do you have?
Point of clarification, so the amount that was cut in total from the school's line item was $386,415, and so that added $351,838 to the reserve fund, and that leaves $34,577 left.
But that wasn't her motion, though, Ms. Hebert. Her motion was for $393,967.
Right. I think that number is incorrect. I think if they're looking to reimburse the amount that was originally presented to the Finance Committee, it should be a total of $386,415. We can check on that.
Another, okay. So let me go to the Finance Committee for a response, and then we'll go here.
Moderator, if it's okay, I wanted to share kind of the thinking of the Finance Committee for those
You need
residents.
to identify yourself.
Oh, sorry, I'm Susan Delgado, and I'm a member of the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to share kind of the thinking of the Finance Committee for those residents who weren't able to listen to the discussions, okay? This was not an easy decision. This is not something we take lightly, right? But we care about this town. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we spent, some of us, a decade or more doing what we do. We care about the town, and we want the best for the town, okay? When we started the discussions back in February, we had no idea what state aid was going to be, okay? We don't know. We don't have that information. So we took a conservative approach. And then we asked all the other departments, please come in level funded. As best you can, come in level funded. And for the majority, they did. But there are some items you can't level fund, okay? Last year, the police department took out a cruiser from their budget. This year, they put it in. You can't continue to cut the cruisers. The cruisers get old, unreliable, repairs get costly. It might be a short-term fix, but it's a long-term problem. The DPW cut their budget for road materials. And what happens? Dan Menard is running out of money for road repairs. So you can't continue to cut road repairs to balance the budget. He needs that money. We don't repair the roads, we don't maintain the roads, guess what? It gets a lot more expensive to fund those. Okay, Oak Colony needs $300,000 more this year. Not for anything new. That's just to give the students the same thing they got last year. Why? We have more kids going to Oak Colony. Okay, Oak Colony can no longer take in Freetown kids. Why? Because the member towns have kids that want to go there. So they can't take in Freetown kids. Our kids are going there. And we just have to pay our portion based on the number of kids that go there. There are kids too. So Oak Colony is asking for $300 just to give the same level of services. Okay, then we fast forward, we get the school committee's information, and they ask for $400,000. And I completely agree with the comment. That's pretty typical to what the school department usually asks for in an increase. No doubt about it, okay? I've sat here for more than 11 years. But then you get into the detail, and you realize that high school tuition out of district, okay, school choice is dropping by $510,000, okay? $510,000 drop. You got a $400,000 ask. Okay, that's $900,000 of new expenses. Okay, where are those $900,000 going? 170 of that raises. Absolutely. Teachers need their money. So wholeheartedly support that. Curriculum, no doubt about it. Okay, we need to know we need the product for the kids to learn. I don't deny that. Then you get into the 8 full-time employees. You got the 2 part-timers. Okay, that's $510,000. That's where the money's going. And during the meeting, we hear there's a $700,000 surplus. There's government aid. Okay, where's that money going? I can't answer that. I don't know where the money's going. Okay, so, and I don't know what the other departments would have asked for if we hadn't told them, you guys got to come in level funded. We can't make this. Okay? I don't know what the other asks are of the other departments. So what did we decide? We decided to level fund the school. Level funding the school does not mean they can't provide the same level of services. Okay? Giving them that money is the same amount, it gives them the money to provide the same level of services. It gives them the money for the raises, and it gives them money for the other asks, some of the asks, just not all of the asks, okay? It doesn't give them everything, I admit, and we put the money in reserve. Why? Because let's figure out, is that the best use of the money, okay, for all of the departments? We deserve the best town. That's all we're sitting up here, that's all we're trying to do, okay? All we're asking for, put that money in reserve. It could very well go back to the school, absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with that, as long as that's the right place, okay? Part of the position that we're in is because we're getting government aid, okay? There's government money. That is not sustainable. It will not last forever, okay? That money will run out. But we have to build a budget that is sustainable, one that we can continue to fund. Because if we can't fund it, then we got to ask the residents for more money. That's not what we want either, right? We want to build a sustainable budget and just have a better understanding of where some of this money is going. That's all we're asking, okay? It could very well go back to the town. Mr. Hallcroft used to be a member of the school committee, okay? It could very well go back there. I just don't have all of the information right now between the other departments and where all the other money is going to go to feel comfortable that that is the right place at the end of the day. It could very well be, I just don't know it. Okay? Now my finance committee hat is off. I am a parent. I have kids in the school system. I want the best schools. My daughter has had reading specialists help her out, okay? My kids deserve the best school. But we, all the residents of this town deserve the best police department, the best fire department. We deserve to have roads paved. It is a balancing act. If we could give everybody everything they wanted, we would. It's not possible. All we're saying is, all we asked for was to put the money in the reserve fund so that way we can make a decision on where the right place is once we have more information.
Thank you, Mrs. Delgado. To the microphones, thank you.
Hi, my name, can you hear me?
Well, let's try some more.
Hi, my name is Ron Hood. I'm a member of the school committee, live on 28 Reservoir Road.
Welcome, Mr. Hood.
I'll be brief because I think my fellow committee member and superintendent did a great job of laying out thoughts. But, you know, I can't think of, through this pandemic, a group of people that have been more negatively impacted than our kids. Out of school a year, and they're still not fully back to school. So the amount of time that it's going to take those kids to recover, to get back to where they should be, is not going to be a week, a month, or even a year. This is a multi-year process. And so I totally respect the comments of Mrs. Delgado, but when I hear things like we can still provide the same level of service, the same level of service wasn't acceptable before the pandemic, and it's not acceptable after. We have to do better. We have to give these kids every resource possible to get back up to speed, put them on par with other districts and where they should be. And so I want police cars, I want roads paved, but we have to prioritize what's most important. I can't think of anything that's more important than our kids and their education.
Thank you, Mr. Hood. Mrs. Gomes.
Hello, Sarah Gomes, 192 Mattapoisett Road. Just to clarify the figures, 338 and 34,570.
I'm sorry, what was the first number, please?
$351,838.
And 34,577.
Correct.
But that doesn't total the 393,967.
No, it is the 386.
Okay, then the motion that was made was for 393,967, I believe.
It was, Mr. Moderator.
It was for 393,967.
There's a discrepancy in the number from, I believe it was
Mrs. Downing.
Mrs. Downing that put out a number of 393, but if you look at the budget, the difference comes out to 86,415.
386, 415.
That is correct, Mr. Moderator.
So we're going to need to modify the amendment if, okay.
Yes, can I do that here?
We have an amendment on the floor. You proposed, we got a proposal to modify the amendment.
And the reason why is because the original figures that were given to Mrs. Downing were incorrect.
Okay, so what is your proposed modification to the amendment?
My proposed modification to the amendment would be 351,838 into the reserve, from the reserve fund, line item number 010-110-578-000, and then 34,577 from the free cash.
Okay, so motion, and the total is 386, 415. And that is your motion.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Moderator.
Is there a second on the motion first? Is she seconding the motion? Yeah, okay. All right, just hold for 1 second, please. I need to consider. Okay, thank you, Ms. Combs. Continue. My apologies.
That is the motion.
All right, I'm the new guy at this job,
know.
so let's just put this out there, and we've got motions and amendments and modifications to amendments, so, all right.
We apologize for the
Okay,
second
thank you,
motion,
thank you.
as it
So
was a
that's why
clerical
That's why
error.
town council's here.
Very good.
Okay,
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Gasper.
If we're gonna take the amendment and dissolve the first motion in the amount of the 393, can we just confirm with the school committee that the total amount for the school department's budget would be $15,460,066? Please, to make sure we have a correct total. I did the math off that number,
Okay.
Sarah, and I did all the math before I came here because I had a feeling this would come up.
Mhm.
So I kind of did all the math prior to coming here. I just want to make sure that total is sufficient and accurate.
Julie, can you confirm that for me,
Yep.
please?
The original amount requested by the school was a total of $15,460,066.
Thank you, Mr. Gaspar.
You're welcome.
15,460,066?
As presented in the fiscal year 22
Original,
request,
school department's original request.
Mr. Moderator.
Continue, Mr. Gasper?
I'm just reading the number that was requested from the fiscal year. That's in yellow looking at as
Their
well.
original request.
I'm just confirming all the numbers.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak at the microphone, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name's John Howcroft.
John, I'm sorry, Mr. Howcroft. Thank you.
He called you chairman, that's why.
And when this budget was presented to the school committee, the first thing which struck out at us was the increase. The increase in the number of full-time employees of 8 and 2 part-time employees. And we said, what is this money being used for? And we got somewhat a brief type of explanation. But when it takes this type of increase in a budget, which affects the budget for the next few years, I mean, if you look, I was trying to look at a comprehensive type of strategic plan. Okay, it was in bits and pieces. Employees here, increase in a 300 some odd % increase in textbooks. It was everywhere, and it looked like as though someone had taken a pail of paint and threw it against the wall and expected a good outcome. And when you're using public money for that type of increase, an increase in staff. You should have measurable gains. What were you trying to do? And so it can be measured and evaluated over a period of time. Something like this, and I agree, I totally agree with the approach they want to take. And I'll explain why we did what we did. But the point is, in order for have good results, you must have precise and good planning. And this is what this did not have. It was not transparent. We had to keep asking questions where money was going. But getting back to the issue is that they were a savings of reduction in tuition of over $520,000. We did not ask for that money back. If they had done a zero-based budget, as all our other budgets are, we would have seen, it would have probably would have been a budget increase of 3.5%. Okay? But it remained and it was transferred. That tuition costs were transferred over to new salaries, or appeared to be. So with the failure of a strategic, airtight plan, plus the money that was on, we don't know what's going, how other monies are going to be spent and applying to this budget. Right now, they have a $700,000 surplus, which can, in some sense, are going to be applied to next fiscal year's budget. They've always done that. They've pre-bought tuitions. They've done many other things with the money. Secondly of all, we're looking at $967,000 in federal money. We don't know at this point what we're going to do with it, what they're going to do with it. And they can be applied to this particular budget. But if we allocate the money, you can't replace it. It becomes like maintenance of you have to maintain what you've allocated because you can't supplant. That's a whole technicality in dealing with federal funds. So therefore, what we would like to, our plan was, basically, is to put the money in reserve, sit down with the school committee, have them bring a strategic plan, also the use of all the other monies, the surplus, the $700,000 surplus, how is that being applied to this fiscal year, and the $967,000 in federal money. We'll put a decent plan together, and therefore, I think we can accomplish the goals. However, we have to remember that we've had just a spike in some funds this year. We had a new growth figure that was that added $450,000 to the budget. So next year we may not have that. State aid is, because of the dynamics of Acushnet, it's going to be level funded. We only got $35,000 increase this year. I don't expect much more next year. So it's going to fall onto our local receipts, which will probably allow us a $700 and $800 increase for the $780,000 increase for the whole town budget. That includes police, fire, and so forth. All our first responders, all the other things that this town needs to maintain. So I just want to bring out that opinions, in one sense, in public policy, we should just deal with the facts. We've tried to bring out the facts of how much money is available but we have to have it. Educational reform must be sustained for 3 years. For the next while the federal money is there anyway, but it must be sustained to be a permanent, not 1 year we're going to spend all our money and then next year we'll worry about it somehow. You just can't, it's irresponsible, irresponsible budgeting. So I'm sorry I spoke too long, Mr. Chairman, but I hope I'm bringing the facts out that money's on the table. Now, what we had planned doing, we could have easily put the money in stabilization or something like that. It's on the table for potentially some of it for educational purposes. And the Voter Finance Committee can do that under that particular, and that's why the purpose of that amendment was basically so it's available for a good discussion and taking all the money that's floating out there and put it into a comprehensive, sustainable plan. And I think we can all accomplish the same goals that we're on the same page for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howcroft. Dr. Bailey, and then we're going to, Christian's been back there for a while, so we'll let him, those that have spoken, we'll let him cut in front of anybody who's spoken already. And Dr. Bailey, go,
I
please.
just want to respond, as I said earlier. I'm hoping as we move forward that we don't have the insults going back and forth. None of the committee, none of my teachers, none of my administrators, myself included, we don't throw things at a wall and hope something sticks. And that's the second time I've heard that. So I really hope that moving forward, we can come together and collaborate. But I think you're going down a slippery slope. If the town expects to cover increases this year with federal funds, they're only going to be taking themselves into a bigger financial hole in the future by creating a structural deficit. Next year or the year after, it will look like we are proposing a budget with 5, 6, 7, 8% increase, when that is actually not the case. Again, we should be looking at this budget as a recovery budget. And yes, we did have a savings in tuition, but now is the time to get the things that we need. 2.6 is very modest. Our town council, whose firm covers hundreds of districts in this state, could not believe that the Finance Committee recommended a level-funded budget. And as I said before, over 97% of the respondents to my survey are getting an increase. Thank you. I hope Acushnet is one of them as well.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. I'm sorry, this gentleman in the green hadn't spoken yet, I don't think, but, okay. And then we'll go to Christian, thank you. And identify yourself, please.
Mr. Moderator. Jonathan Teves, One Glorious Way.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
I just kind of a general observation. For as long as I've lived here, it seems like the surrounding communities, for whatever reason, seem to prioritize education a little bit differently than Acushnet has. To me, this isn't a discussion about this year's budget being level funded necessarily. I think this just happens to be the culmination of, we'll say, a general philosophy that's existed perhaps over the better part of the last 2 or 3 decades, where, for whatever reason, we just haven't prioritized education in our education department in the same way as some of these other surrounding towns. To me, the education system, the schools, is the biggest draw for a community wanting people to move here and have their families here and to stay here, is that education system. I feel like Acushnet's lost some of that. That's just a general feeling on my part. That's my opinion. But I think it's been, again, something that's happened over decades here, and it's consistently been in place. A couple examples of facts to kind of back up that philosophy is we would look at just kind of anybody in this room could get in a car and drive an hour in any direction in Massachusetts and not even pass through a town in Massachusetts that pays their teachers less than we pay in this district. And the problem is, the problem's not exclusively that, because that sets a benchmark for everything else in the town, all the other positions. So she's probably going to hate me for doing this, but I'm going to use my wife as an example. She's a teacher in this town. She's been a teacher for 15 years. And through the 15 years we counted, she's had 11 different administrative positions overseeing her. And she's going to get 2 more next year. And so 16 years, 13 different administrators, I don't know anybody that's had a job for 16 years and has had 13 bosses throughout that span. And I don't know what it is, but I suspect that people are moving on from their positions in the town, and it's likely for money, and I don't blame them. But so I think it's just kind of a broader issue from the budget standpoint and how this town's philosophy is is in regards to funding the education system in this town. What we're doing is, so the end result is we've got, okay, we're going to hire a teacher. We're going to pay them one of the lowest salaries in the state of Massachusetts. We're going to say, hey, but we don't have curriculum or appropriate curriculum for you to do your job. And then we're going to hold you accountable with a revolving door of admin positions on an annual basis. So I think that's the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Tev. Mr. Tev's a member of the school committee. I think it's important to, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Christian D'Souza, Lower Keene Ave. In looking at the budget, something that jumps out at is the transportation line item. As the prior school committee member mentioned, there was no transportation for the whole year, basically. So how are we still on the hook for $1.2 million for transportation? Isn't there a surplus there? Shouldn't there be? I believe, with the current federal programs, the payroll protection and so forth, I think some of those funds could have been recouped. Maybe not on the school system, but the contractor, and we would have a surplus. I'm just wondering.
Fair question. Yep, thank you.
If that was
I think I'd invite somebody up from the, either superintendent or somebody from the school committee
the
to
business department,
address that. While that question's on the floor, why don't we try to address that, Mr. D'Souza?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Moderator.
Mr. D'Souza.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Kristen Flynn. I'm the school business manager, and I'm also a resident of the town of Acushnet. He is correct. Transportation did exist this year. We transported all of our students to Acushnet Elementary School, Ward Middle School, Fairhaven High School, New Bedford High School, Bristol County Agricultural High School for at least 4 of the 5 days every week this year. We did not have transportation last year after March 13th. However, we are currently still in negotiations with our transportation provider over the fees that we may still owe the bus company for that, and we are negotiating for the non-school days this year. So again, most of the days we did transport to our high schools. We did not transport on Wednesdays this year up until the beginning of April, but we are now transporting to Ford Middle School and Acushnet Elementary School 5 days a week. So while there may be a small amount of unspent transportation funds this year, the amount remains to be seen as we're negotiating with our transportation provider.
Thank
I
you,
hope that
Mrs.
answered the
Thank you,
question.
Mrs. Flynn.
Hi, my name is Christine Vardo, and I'm on 10 Barksdale Lane in Acushnet. I am the proud parent of a 9th grader and 1st grader here through the Acushnet Public Schools. 10 years ago, I was wowed at the curriculum and technology and amazed at my students' access to iPads, computers, and everything that the Acushnet Public Schools had to offer. I could not have been happier. The staff and faculty are hardworking on keeping our students learning each and every day. Now I'm back to 1st grade and no longer very wowed by what I see in our schools. Our school's curriculum is flat and does not position our students moving from Acushnet Public Schools to local high schools and their future for success. Specifically, my high schooler is at Fairhaven High School, and we are behind in our curriculum. My 9th grader was prohibited from taking geometry and AP World History as a freshman due to our lack of curriculum in our foundation here at Acushnet Public Schools. This is the future of our town and our students that will want to stay and live here for the benefit of the town and the town's future. Looking ahead, we are flat And in a world of constant change, we cannot remain flat, and the curriculum is outdated significantly. I'm an accountant by trade, so I do math every day. So I sat here and thought about $386,000 of increased funding, give or take $5,000, $6,000. We have 1,000 students or so. That's $386 per student for this upcoming year. Divide that by 180 days of school. That's a $2 increase per day per student that our students are asking for. I don't think that that's a lot to ask for, so I would respectfully request that we look very close at our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Monique Cote, and I live at 65 Park Drive in Acushnet. And I would like to speak to the idea of level funding, which sounds very balanced and very reasonable. But the fact is, when you level fund, that cuts are made. So level funding means that you're going to provide goods and services this year on last year's money. So think about what that means in your house finances. There are costs that you can't help that go up, such as your electricity and your heating oil, for instance. So when those costs go up and you don't have any more money coming in, you have to make cuts to other parts of your family budget. So maybe that money comes from, food or car repairs or clothing. And the same thing happens to the school department. When we're level funded and the cost of keeping the lights on goes up or the cost of oil goes up, those cuts have to be made somewhere else, and those cuts can directly affect students. Maybe there won't be money for late buses, or maybe there won't be money for curriculum, for instance. So level funding is kind of like lipstick on a pig. It sounds nice, but when you look at it for what it really is, it does mean that there will be cuts. Now, today I went to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, and I found this number called the Consumer Price Index. And the Consumer Price Index is kind of a measure about how much you can expect those goods and services to go up for the average person like us sitting here in the room. And for the year from March of 2020 to March of 2021, the cost for those goods and services, like the electricity, like the oil, like the gas, went up for everyone 2.6%. So when the school department is asking for a 2.6% increase in their budget, it seems to me a very reasonable and very realistic number, to keep the lights on and still provide services to our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Gomes.
Hello. Just to clarify a couple of things that were mentioned. It was mentioned that about $700,000 could be possibly transferred to the following year, which is not correct. Any surplus that the school has at the end of this fiscal year will be returned to the general fund for the selectmen and the finance committee to do what they will with it. And as a school committee member, I feel that we are very fiscally responsible, and we will use the money that we need, and whatever money is left over will definitely go back to the town. In addition, I feel as a school committee member, I've ran twice, I feel that it's my responsibility to make sure that we are fiscally responsible with the money that we're given every year for our school department. I understand the finance committee has a very strong responsibility with also managing the entire town, but I feel that the school committee are the experts. Dr. Bailey, the business manager, we're the ones that really know what we need and what our students need. So on that note, I thank you very much for your time, and I respect, everybody that has their opinion, but I feel like our students need what we need, and I hope we get the money that we deserve.
Thank you, Mrs. Gomes. Thank you.
Gonna say anything?
Hello, my name is Tim Mason, 46 Slocum Street, and I am an educator, but not in this town. My wife and I had a child, and we were living elsewhere in the area, and we decided, we should move. I think we should move to Acushnet for their school department. And everyone's made a lot of points about that and about short-term solutions versus long-term. If we level fund the school this year, we're just kicking the can further down the road. Do more aggressive increases and asks later on. And I think that our children are our greatest asset. We've all heard that cliche, but it's true. I think a lot of us this year have had to help teach our children at home while also working full-time. So I think that this is the best way that we can show our students and our teachers that what we do here really matters. And I just want to move to closed discussion. But
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Yeah. We are going to allow another speaker. Thanks.
Hi, Jody Spars, 4 Lynn Ellen Drive. I'd just like to say that, I know it may not seem it, but for the last 20 years, I've put 4 kids through the Acushnet Public Schools. I was involved in education for over 15 years before going over to Brown. Let's see, I have a son who's a junior, so I understand the town, and I'm a resident, a lifelong resident of the town. I just wish there would come a day that we would start prioritizing the school department. I'm here with a junior. I could very easily just say, who cares what the budget looks like? But the reality is that I'm vested. I think we have a wonderful town. I hope my children choose to stay here and raise kids here. But the reality is every year it's a fight. Every year it's a battle. We've had positions we've been trying to get pushed across forever. Every year it's, this is what we need. We should be the best in the area. We are a small district. We should have the smallest class sizes that we physically can afford. Our teachers should have the curriculum that they need. That shouldn't even be a question. We shouldn't even be here. It shouldn't have got to the way it is now anyways. But every year you have to make your budget work. If a child, you approve the budget, if a child moves in tomorrow and they're special education and they need certain services, that has to be paid for. The town's not going to give the school department more money. And if I say anything incorrectly, interrupt, please. If a kid moves in, a family of 5 move in, and 4 of them are high school students, those high school students have budgets. You have to try to find it. You know, you're making cuts all the time in what you wish your kids had and the reality of what you're able to present to them and what changes you have to make throughout the year. And I give Kristen Flynn and years of dedication to doing this, and we are grateful to have the expertise in Dr. Bailey. She was a bargain. No offense, thank you so much for accepting this position. She is such a leader. So, you know, we are lucky to have her, and if she was offered a job tomorrow, I don't blame her for leaving for the prices, and I don't blame the teachers. But it's over 20 years. And I just say, stop fighting. Let's do what's best for these kids and stop arguing over 2.6% increase for them.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Are we ready to, Mr. Warner?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to take the opportunity, first of all, to commend the teachers and those who work here in the building on a day-to-day. Not an easy job, and we get that as a member of the Board of Selectmen. And by no means am I speaking on behalf of my fellow board members. But I want to assure folks that within the last nine months or so, I've seen an unprecedented level of cooperation between the school department and the school committee and the Board of Selectmen and our finance team, and I realize that town meeting, it's passionate. People are fighting for what they believe in, and that's totally fine, right? The discussion that's taken place this evening, it's people fighting for what they believe is right. But I want to assure you that whatever takes place this evening, we'll get through town meeting, and the school department will continue to be supported by the Board of Selectmen and those in the community. Just in the past year, the school department needed a new roof. We met with Dr. Bailey and Kristen Flynn. Without batting an eye, the Board of Selectmen advanced a $1.2 million funding that did not have to go to the taxpayer via debt exclusion. That was done. The projection is to do it in-house with existing revenue. Close to $500,000 in CARES funding. We have well over $100,000 in ancillary items today. So I just want to assure you, whatever takes place this evening, we will continue to work. We will continue to support the school department based on the product that the school committee's put forward, the work that the administration has done, and we also believe in the finance committee as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. A lot of discussion. Are we ready to vote on the question?
Mr. Moderator,
Sorry, Mr. Gasper, go.
if I could just address the audience. So, in the beginning of...
Talk to the audience through me, Mr. Gasper, of course.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. So somebody had mentioned, I think it was coordination earlier on in the first 5 minutes about the Board of Selectmen. I just want to make it clear that for myself, I wasn't attending the joint meeting with the school committee, FinCom, and the Board of Selectmen as I was in Florida. So when I came back, I seen all the discussion about the excess money and things of the like. Under normal circumstances, now we're gonna go back, I'm gonna take you back 2 years. Under normal circumstances, what we, the taxpayers of Acushnet, have to fund our budgets is roughly $700,000 a year. $450,000 is generated in Prop 2.5 override, the levy limit. That's what we can generate from year over year, and then about 2 to 250 in new growth. So the town as a whole roughly has $700,000. Given the school department's budget being roughly 55% of the budget, when I looked at this year and I seen the numbers, that's why I calculated all the numbers before I came, because I assumed that the school committee would want the $386,000, so I calculated how it would all work out. If you look at that $700,000 and you take that roughly 55% that the school committee represents, it's pretty much in line this year with what we normally would have. There's a lot of money that's in these articles, for instance, in spending tonight, that's not gonna always be here. It'll be one-time revenue because of the way free cash was turned over, the way we made cuts last year, and Ms. Delgado talked about DPW and things of the like. Some of that free cash rolled over to this year. So it appears on the surface that we have a lot of money to spend, okay? When you look at this, and I'm still looking at it from the back seat saying, how in the hell did we get to this amount of money to be spent? There is a lot of money out there, and I guess from the 5% cuts that they did from the state aid, neither here or there. I looked at this and I said to myself, I actually had a conversation with some folks from the school, and I said, how did we get here this year if we have X amount of excess dollars and we're not going to give the school department the $386,000 this year? If there's ever been an argument to cut money, it would be in past years. So I'm okay with the amendment that Ms. Downing made from the school committee. I think it's in line to $386,000. Should we be holding everybody accountable for the dollars that they spend? Absolutely. Do I think that the finance committee looked at it from the point of view where they had excess surplus from the previous year due to the pandemic? Yeah, I get that. But again, you can't just assume that this money is going to come back, and then somebody made the comment that next year it's going to be double. It could be double, and we don't have that kind of money to be given just to the school department. We don't have $700,000 a year to give to the school department. So I just wanted to clear my name, I guess, as a member of the Board of Selectmen. When the comment was made about the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, I wasn't one of those persons saying I want to cut the school department's budget by $400,000. So, and I'm actually looking at the $386,000 increase, and that is something that is in line with something that we would normally be doing, a modest 2.5% increase to the school department's budget. So, just so everybody out there knows, and I do believe that our children are the most important asset to this community. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Gasper. Okay, so we're on the amendment to the budget, which was at a motion and second, the amendment to the budget, which is what we're going to vote first. So the amendment to the amendment would move from our reserve fund to our school department budget, $351,838 from the reserve fund to the school department budget. We'd move from free cash to the school department budget, $34,577 from free cash to the school department budget. Total increase in the school department budget would be $386,415. And the school department budget as proposed would now be, if this were to pass, $15,460,066. And the total town budget would increase by $34,577. I got the okay from Ms. Hebert, so all right, I'm feeling good about myself right now. Okay, so we've got the motion on the floor is to amend the budget to make those changes. Got a motion and second, and this is a majority vote. All in favor, show of hands. All opposed, show of hands. The motion passes with opposition. Okay, back now to the town's budget. And we've got the main, so the amendment, which was amended, that's gone because it's been amended. I'm thinking out loud again, so bear with me. Back to the main motion, and we've got a change in the main motion because now we've got to amend that motion to bring in $34,577 in free cash. Do we need to read that entire motion again?
Mr. Moderator, all the other numbers matched up. I already did that math as well. The only thing that we didn't say was the 34,577 from free cash.
Okay, so get away with amending the motion. Okay, so the original motion, with the amendment, because we've increased the school department budget, we're modifying the original motion. We outlined all the sources of cash to increase it $34,577 from free cash. So back to the original, we're now voting on the entire town budget. We got a motion and second. Any discussion on the entire town budget? We've discussed everything that's been held. Further discussion? All in favor? Show of hands, please. Opposed? One opposed. The budget's passed with opposition. Article 4. This is the budget for the Golf Club Enterprise Fund, showing the sources and uses of funds for the golf course for the coming year. The budget totals $1,505,470. Is there a motion on Article 4?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $1,505,470 to operate the golf course enterprise authorized under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half, as set forth in Article 4 of the May 10th, 2021 annual town meeting warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation. Thank you, Mr. St. Jean. Any discussion? Motion is to approve the golf course budget for a total of $1,505,470. All in favor? Show of hands, please. All opposed? Budget passes with opposition. Article 5, to see if the town will approve the budget for the Sewer Enterprise Fund totaling $735,246. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $735,246 to operate the sewer enterprise authorized under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, subsection 53, F and a half, as set forth in Article 5 of the May 10, 2021 annual town meeting warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Finance Committee recommendation. Thank you. Motion and a second to approve the Sewer Enterprise Fund budget totaling $735,246. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Article passes unanimously. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum or sums of money to operate the PEG Access and Cable Related Fund totaling $190,000. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $190,000 to operate the PEG Access and Cable-Related Receipts Reserve Fund, authorized under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and 3/4, with such appropriations under the direction of the Board of Selectmen, all as set forth in Article 6 of the May 10, 2021 annual town meeting warrant.
And we have a second. Finance Committee recommendation. Thank you, Mr. St. Jean. A motion and a second to approve the budget for the PEG Access and Cable-Related Fund totaling $190,000. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 7 we did. Article 8 we did.
And we did.
Article 9 we did. We're moving quickly now. Article 10. Article 10 is a capital expenditure budget, the capital improvement budget, and you can see various items that are outlined here for the police department, fire EMS department, and the DPW totaling $508,000, and you have all the detail in the article. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $508,000 from free cash for the purpose of purchasing the capital items as described in Article 10 of the May 10th, 2021 annual town meeting, including all costs incidental and related thereto.
Is there a second?
Well, second.
Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation. Thank you, Mr. St. Jean. Motion made and seconded for various capital items totaling $508,000. Is there any discussion?
Hello, folks. Good evening. My name's Norm Fredette, number 16 Rainy Street. I'm also a former member of the Board of Public Works. We had a board. And I do have a question about, does this have to take everything, or can certain line items be taken out?
We could, like the town's budget, this could be modified on a line-by-line basis. Absolutely.
Okay, yes, that's what I'm asking, because we're spending money here like gangbusters. And I have a question, Mr. Moderator, maybe you could find out for me. How much is our legal bill so far fighting DJ Keating? Have we gone over our budget of money that we've allowed for town council? Has that gone over yet? Could you ask the right person for me,
Yeah,
please?
we really need to focus our conversation on the article on the floor.
Well, my
But
point
fair- I mean,
is,
fair question.
how much we're spending over and above, right? My question, in December, we were here. And I
Due
got
respect,
up
Mr. Fredette.
and I spoke against us buying a new loader.
I know.
The town doesn't need a new loader. The loader can be repaired. They're made to be rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt, not to throw them away like a cruiser or a pickup truck, okay? We're spending money here like a drunk. When I moved in the town in '94 into my new house, I paid $1,700 a year for taxes. Now my taxes are over $7,000 a year. I didn't put any kids in the school system. They went to private schools. But I pay my taxes, and I don't complain. I pay. But I think we're getting out of hand here, and we need to start watching where the money's going. And I don't know if I need to make a motion to modify, to take the loader out of here, because we don't need to spend $285,000. We can spend $40,000, $50,000 to repair the machine we have. And I remember the last meeting, they said, well, if there's a hurricane or something, and I didn't think of it then, but 1991 or 2, I believe we had Hurricane Bob. And the fire department, under the former chief, when Chief Cody was here, they commandeered one of our backhoes to help clean the street, to get it open. They kept it for maybe 6 hours, and at the time, maybe it was $75 an hour. When it was all done, they sent the machine back to me. Why do we have how many people in town that have backhoes, front-end loaders, and heavy equipment? Why do we have to buy in case there's a blizzard again, or in case there's a hurricane? There's plenty of people that they can take their equipment, use them for 5, 6, 10 hours, send them home, and save the taxpayers a boatload of money.
So two options, Mr. Fredette. I mean, you suggested an amendment to this.
Yes,
That's possible.
please.
We can get a response to your question.
Okay.
Whatever, if you wanted to propose an amendment to this article, you
Is
could
that
do
the
that.
proper way that I
Or we
have to
could-
go about this? You're gonna have to educate me, Mr. Moderator. Is that how we do this? Make an amendment to take that line item
You
out?
could, similar to what we did with the school department budget, you could propose an amendment to this article to strike a line item if you wanted to do
Yeah,
that.
I would like to,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I would like to do that. Make a proposal, is that the proper
You're
word?
proposing to amend the article
to
to
take
strike.
that line item out,
Strike the
strike
new
it.
loader from Article 10.
Right.
So that's your motion.
That's my motion, please, sir.
Is there a second to that motion? I see some hands. Okay, so discussion on your amendment to the budget. So we've got a proposal to modify Article 10 to remove the loader from the budget. So we're going to discuss that now, too. I'd encourage Mr. Fredette or anyone else in the audience or anywhere in the room to approach the microphone to discuss that proposed amendment. And then we'll vote that amendment, proposed amendment. Thank you, Mr. Fredette.
Hi, Sarah Gomes, 192 Mattapoisett Road. I'm going to trust Mr. Menard, who's head of our DPW, that if he says we need a new loader, he must be putting a ton of work into the one that we currently have. And I believe that this is the problem that our town has, is that we wait till things are just ready to die before we fix it. And I think that's a big problem. I've been here 15 years. I plan on being here another 20 to 30 more years. And I just don't want to see our town fall apart or have our department heads have to fight for every dime, just to save time or a couple of bucks. And $285,000 is a couple of bucks if he's been working on this truck for 5 years or something like that. So I think we should give Mr. Menard what he needs, and hopefully he'll be able to clean our roads better than in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gomes. Other discussion on the proposed amendment to Article 10?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Mr. DeRoche.
thank you very much. This article was brought before the town back at our last town meeting in November of last year. And at that time, I was opposed to it for a number of different reasons. One situation that has changed is the town does now have the money. And if you also look at the warrant in front of you, you're going to be asked to vote to spend $90,000 to fix up the existing 2002 John Deere loader. So the way I look at it, if we're faced with paying $285,000 and we take away the $90,000, that brings our cost of the machine down to $195,000. Now, in a situation I've had with Mr. Menard is that what we're going to do with the old loader, if we can auction off the old loader and get maybe $25,000 for it, that brings the total cost of the new loader down to $170,000. If you divide that over 20 years, that comes about to $8,500 a year over the 20 years for a new loader. If we keep the old loader and we spend $90,000 fixing it, and it lasts us another 10 years when it's 30 years old, that comes to about $9,000 that we're going to be spending a year for the next 10 years. So with that, when I took that into consideration, and with the amount of money that the town has right now, I've changed my mind and can approve the purchase of a new loader. But I would really like to put a stipulation on it that we need to get rid of the old loader, because we can't have two loaders. We'll have to maintain both loaders, and if the second loader is in such dire shape that we need to spend $90,000 on it now, I don't see the reason in keeping it at all, because it'll be a constant maintenance battle, which will cost us money, whether it be $2,000 this year, $6,000 next year. If we have a brand-new loader, we should use it to its maximum potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeRoche. Mr. Fredette, back to you.
Yeah, I'd just like to bring this out. The town wants to do roads. They don't have enough money to do roads. I would think it would be in the best interest of the town to get a road grader to work along with their paving machine that they have, and that would be a good investment in the town's money. Now, I know the folks here want to do good. I've been around heavy equipment for over 40 years. I own 3 front-end loaders myself, and we rebuild them, and we keep fixing them. And there's no reason that machine with the low hours it has needs to be replaced. It's like a car with low mileage. It has very low hours. And as I say, the machines cost a lot of money because they're made to be rebuilt over and over again. The money that you would put towards a road grader or a machine that would help would be far more advantageous to the town and the DPW to have. It would help them repair the road so they could pave it, and that loader could keep running. But I have one question, Mr. Moderator. Could we be sure, through the Board of Selectmen, that this machine won't be traded in and some friend of a friend through the dealer will end up with it? That it will go to a public town auction.
I believe it has to, Mr.
No, they've traded a lot of equipment. When I served on the Board of Public Works, I was very upset that they traded stuff in, and it ended up at certain friends' places later on. And that was wrong. It was already a done deal when it got traded in. And back when Mr. Sylvia was in charge, I asked him about it, and he said, oh, no, we got more money if we traded it in. Well, unless you have an auction with a reserve, how do you know you're going to get more money trading it in than at the auction? I had a lot of townsfolk that wanted to bid on some of the equipment at the auction that got traded in, and they didn't have an auction. I would like to, through you, ask the selectmen if they will promise us here.
Can't stipulate that within this article, but if any on Board of Selectmen want to comment on that.
So I know exactly what Mr. Fredette's talking about. Back in the old days when I was a kid, we used to go down to the town barn, and whether it was the police department seizing bicycles or motorcycles or whatever it may be that the town got in possession of, we go down to the town barn. Well, I went down with my dad, and we'd sit there and we'd have a little auction, and people would have the right to buy stuff on the cheap. And, you know, the high goes to the highest bidder. Now, there's been a practice for several years where you just declare things as surplus with no value, and Mr. Fredette's right, where it kind of can just go off into the distance and somebody else can grab it. And I'd like to bring back those days where we do have things of value, and it's not labeled as junk. I think it would be a great thing for the community, so everybody has a fair and equal opportunity to put their hands on something and bid on something, and it's not being politicized, where it's only going to my buddy, his buddy, or his buddy. It's a public auction, and we have the right as taxpayers to come in and bid on it, or somebody from outside of town can actually come in and bid on it, but it will take an advertisement. So I'm all for that. I think when it comes to equipment like Mr. Fredette's talking about, where it's a loader, I think it's a phenomenal idea that we start doing that with some of the bigger equipment, and we don't just let it go to per se scrap. So I'm all for it, Mr. Fredette, to bring back the old days of the auctions.
It used to be. And I'll tell you, I'd be one person there bidding on it, because I know what the low hours on that machine is and the value of that machine. That machine really needs to stay. But you folks can spend the money as you care.
Thank you, Mr. Fredette. Other discussion on the proposed amendment to Article 10? Okay, so we're going to vote first on the amendment to Article 10, which would remove the loader from the article. All in favor of that, please raise your hand. All opposed to doing that, please raise your hand. Motion fails. The amendment fails. Back to the original motion, back to Article 10. Any further discussion on Article 10 on any of the other items proposed in the capital budget? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 10? Any opposed? The article passes with opposition. Article 11 proposes to spend $90,000 on the existing 2002 John Deere 544 loader for use within the Department of Public Works. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, to make a motion to table as we just purchased a new loader.
We have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Well, second.
Motion to table, there can be no discussion, and this needs a 2/3 vote. All in favor of tabling Article 11, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. I'm going to say that passed unanimously. Thank you. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of $20,000 for hiring a professional appraisal company to appraise some of our industrial use real property. Is there a motion? Motion. Oh, this one says Mr. DeRoche.
Dave DeRoche. I'm on the wrong page. Apologize.
Number
Article
12, sir.
Article 12.
Waiting for Dave. Yes, Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash a sum of $20,000 for the purpose of hiring a professional appraisal company to perform comprehensive individual appraisals of industrial use real properties, including all costs incidental and related thereto.
Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation. We have a motion and a second to spend $20,000 for a professional appraiser to look at our industrial use real property. Is there any discussion on the article? Seeing no one, all in favor, please, show of hands. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Article 13, to see if the town will raise $25,000 for the purpose of hiring a consultant to review and update the town's zoning bylaws. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $25,000 for the purpose of hiring a consultant to review and update the town's zoning bylaws, including all costs incidental and related thereto.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation. Got a motion and a second to spend $25,000 to review and update the town's zoning bylaws. Is there any discussion on the article? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? I'm going to say that passed unanimously. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the school capital improvement budget. And there's a schedule provided totaling $117,000 for funds that will be spent on various capital items at the school department. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $117,000 from the free cash for the purpose of purchasing the capital items as described in Article 14, the May 10, 2021 annual town meeting, including all costs incidental and related thereto.
Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation. Thank you. Any discussion? Mrs. Flynn.
Good evening. I just want to provide a little bit of context to why we're asking for some of these items in case there are voters out there who have not seen our meetings. For the roof preventative maintenance, this is to do some repairs on the sections of the roof at Ford Middle School and Acushnet Elementary School that we are not replacing. We are moving ahead with our plan to replace the oldest section of the elementary school roof, which is approximately 63,000 square feet. But we still need some funds each year to tend to any leaks that come up. So that's why we're asking for that. For the antenna replacement, that is an antenna that is on top of the elementary school building. It's original to the building. The building was built in 1971. It is old, it is rusted, and it is in need of replacement. And we feel at this point in time with replacing the roof, now is the time to go ahead and do that project. Currently, that antenna has school communications equipment and DPW communications equipment, but it could also have other town departments' communications equipment in the future. And finally, we're looking to replace the gymnasium calf wall. So that's the section right in the middle over here that when we are using this as a cafeteria and as a gymnasium, that wall comes out and separates it. That wall is original to this building, which is approximately 20 years old, and it is in need of replacement, and we have been advised by some contractors that have come to look at the job that we should not be moving it back and forth anymore. So to start the school year next year, when we do have, hopefully, a calf and a gym as we like to use it, that's what we will need to have replaced. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Flynn. Other discussion on the article? Okay, let's put that to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? The article passes unanimously. There was one opposed? Okay. Article passes with opposition. Thank you. If you're opposed, that's fine. Just make sure I see you, please, okay? Your vote's important. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to amend Article 9, Stormwater Management Plan, attached to your package as Appendix 2, so that is You have that proposed attached to the package that you picked up at the front door. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 15 as written in the warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation. We've got a motion and a second to approve the stormwater management bylaw, which has, again, been provided to you. Is there any discussion on what's proposed? This will require a two-thirds vote. I can declare it a two-thirds vote, but if it looks close, we're going to count it. So all in favor? Any opposed? I'm going to say that passed unanimously. Thank you. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Acushnet General Bylaws zoning Article 8 to delete Section 7 floodplain overlay district and replace a new section as set forth in Appendix 3, which also has been provided to you, and to further amend the zoning plan for the town. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 16 as written in the warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation. Is there any, so we've got a motion and a second to approve the floodplain overlay district as provided in Appendix 3. Is there any discussion? And I'll just add the comment that I know that, you know, some of these appendices, there's a lot of words there, but all of this stuff is distributed well prior to town meeting. So if you want to look at this stuff before town meeting, I suspect we put it up electronically as well. So this is all available for review before town meeting. Planning Board, approval on this? This is zoning, okay. Has Planning Board approved this bylaw? Yes, so Planning Board also supports it. Thank you. This also requires a two-thirds vote. All in favor? Any opposed? The article passes unanimously. Article 17. Again, a bylaw change regarding common driveways. And the language has been, the language is provided within the article. We're basically going to the bylaws, deleting some existing language, and inserting some additional language. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, on the last two articles that were proposed by the planning board, one of them, the stormwater one, really needed to be revised due to several issues that we have.
Mr. Gasper, we voted those
In the flood, yep, in the floodplain one as well, I would make a motion to table Article 17.
Okay, so we got a motion to table Article 17.
Second.
Is there a second? Motion made and seconded to table Article 17. I'm sorry?
Can't hold.
You can, all right, so we got a motion, I'll explain the process. We've got a motion made and seconded to table Article 17. There can be no discussion on the motion to table. We vote on the motion to table. If the motion to table is rejected, we will discuss the article. If the motion to table passes, we'll not discuss this article. This needs two-thirds vote to table. So we're going to be voting whether or not we table the article. Again, if it's tabled, we're not going to discuss it. If we don't table it, we will discuss it. So all in favor of tabling the article, please raise your hand. All who reject the motion to table, please raise your hand. The motion to table fails.
Oh, I should vote.
Okay, back to the article.
No, I'm all set.
That would be a motion next to approve the article. Is there a motion to approve Article 17? Motion, anyone can make a motion.
I make a motion.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation, Article 17. Planning Board recommendation on Article 17. Okay, discussion, motion made and seconded Article 17, again, bylaw changes regarding common driveways were in discussion. Sir?
Josh Aruda, 148 Peckham Road. Mr. Moderator, what is the reason to table this?
Well, it's not tabled, we're discussing it, so it
All
was,
right,
it
so
was
what
asked
was
that we
the
table it, so now we're discussing approving the article. So
All right.
the table died, so we're discussing approving the article at this point, or rejecting the article. So,
Right.
so you can, I would suggest, speak for or against the article at this point.
Yes, so this has been on the agenda for the last couple of town meetings, and I don't know what the reason is. This has been a mess up in the bylaw for a really long time, holding up development in town, and we want to know the reason why there's a problem with this bylaw.
Well, it is on the agenda today. It's on the agenda today for approval, so it's here to be, again, approved or rejected. So,
Mr.
if you want to
Moderator.
speak in favor of it, you're welcome to. Yes, Mr. Merritt, did you want to approach the microphone? Well, Mr. Merritt, approach the town's building inspector. You're not a resident, but you're the town's building inspector, so your opinion's important.
Yeah, a number of years ago, the bylaw, as it was established, was very wordy and very misleading. The past planner changed the wording to increase or to have the length of common driveways remain in 150 feet away from any dwelling. And what that did was basically shut down any further development concerning retreat lot. There's been a lot of discussion on reducing the amount to 75 feet and replacing the original wording for Section B, which really brings the bylaws back into a comprehensive adjustment to allow or to constructively approve retreat lot. If this bylaw doesn't pass, there are retreat lots that have already been approved that I will not be able to issue permits on.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against this article?
Mr. Roddery, the only reason why I said motion to table it is because the planning board just met today on the public hearing at 10 a.m. and they usually meet at night so people can participate and not be at work. I understand that Mr. Aruda is here tonight and he had proposed a common driveway and he wants the bylaw changed. And I guess if we're spending $25,000 to redo our zoning bylaws, wouldn't we wait to spend the $25,000 and redo our zoning bylaws and then have this done?
Mr. Moderator,
Aruda, yes.
You got rid of our town planner that was trying to resolve the issue. I have not one, but two approvals.
And Mr.
On the
Aruda, you're talking to me.
I have two approvals as a retreat lot and as a common driveway. So now I have two approvals. So you're telling me this is not going to go through?
Well, I would say that this article is intended to be bigger than one situation. This
Yes,
is
I
intended
understand that. And
So, yeah.
this is not a new thing. This has been going on for over a year. So saying, yeah, they did meet tonight to resolve this, but this has been going on for more than a year. So I don't know how all of a sudden it's a new subject, because it's not.
Well, let's go to the gentleman behind you, Mr. Romanelli. You need to identify yourself, even though I did.
John Romanelli, 32 Bow Drive. I just want to say Mr. Merritt's rewriting of the bylaw really clears up any confusion over the past few years. A lot on a common driveway basically is a retreat lot. The setbacks to any property line are 75 feet, so it's in conjunction with the bylaw. To me, in my opinion, any offset on a common driveway or a retreat lot should be 75 feet. 150 feet was way too long. You were going down a long common driveway, and then you had to be a minimum of 150 feet away. Just didn't make sense. I think this clears up the article.
Thank you, Mr. Romanelli. Anyone else wish to speak for or against the proposed bylaw change? Okay, Mr. Merritt again. Go.
Again, Mr. Moderator, I mean, I guess the thing that's a little confusing for me is this was proposed to be placed on the warrant. It was reviewed with the Board of Selectmen during the warrant review. It was presented to town council to make comments on. Those comments came back to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen then passed it on to the planning board, and the planning board held the public hearing. I mean, if we have to wait now for a consultant to review the bylaws, any potential changes that are proposed tonight won't be heard for years yet down. I mean, the town clerk has been involved in recodifying the bylaws, which is something that started 6 or 7 years ago. We still don't have those in place. I mean, I think it's really a disservice to the community to table these articles at this point in time, because they're only going to hurt the public.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Any- Mr. Mason.
Yes, just quick clarification, there's some vocabulary that I'm not familiar with, so I have no idea what I'm voting on. If we could just talk about what these lots are, what they kind of entail, what kind of development and building, and what these things mean, that'd be really helpful, I think, for the general voters.
Let's go to Mr. Merritt for that, please.
What this does is that the town has a retreat bylaw, which requires an individual to develop his property with 40 feet of frontage and 120,000 square feet of land. We have a number of parcels like this within the community, and prior to the common driveway bylaw being adopted, people put in their individual driveways. So if you drive down Mendel Road, you'll notice that there are 5 or 6 independent driveways right next to one another that drive all the way back, 400 or 500 feet to get to their lots. The purpose for the common driveway was really to establish the ability for 3 lots to use a common access road, so that you don't have these driveways that, you're basically turning 120 feet of land into nothing but driveways. So it serves a very good purpose to have this in place. And I can tell you right now that there are lots that have been developed, which, if we don't move forward with this, the only option that these people will have will be to develop 3 individual driveways up off of Main Street and up off of a number of the roadways, where you're just going to see three driveways paralleling one another to get to their backland. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Other discussion on this article?
Like Jim mentioned, Josh,
Thank you.
think about responding for an emergency. Now, fire department needs to go up a small driveway that doesn't have the ability to go up a driveway that's 12 feet wide. With a common driveway, they need 20 feet wide, 30 feet of access to get back there, to do whatever they need to get to. Common driveways, if we have these things all over the town, how is the fire department supposed to respond to a 300, 400-foot driveway in a house fire or a brush fire all over the town? Retreat lots were meant and put in place in this town to be less of a burden on the town, because I have the ability to do a 6-lot subdivision. So now that's more burden for the town. Retreat lots eliminate that. So now an association needs to be put in place so the homeowners are responsible for maintaining that, not the town. So that it leaves the town from maintaining these subdivisions. So that's the reason why we have retreat lots in town, common driveways.
Thank you, Mr. Ruda. Anyone else want to speak to Article 17? Seeing no one, let's put it to a vote. And this is, again, change in the bylaw requires a 2/3 vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. I'm going to say that passed unanimously. Thank you. Article 18, again, bylaw modification. And this regards the storage of materials and supplies on a piece of private property and where those materials can be stored.
They tabled it.
And where those materials can be stored. Is there a motion to approve Article 18?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 18 is written in the warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation. Planning Board recommendation. Got a motion second, Finance Committee and Planning Board recommendation to approve the article regarding the storage of materials and supplies on private property. Discussion regarding the article. Mr. Fredette.
No, I'm Fredette again, 16 Rainy Street. I have a question about the way this is. Are we talking new construction? Are we talking existing buildings? You could be building a new house, strip the topsoil. That's a material, could be stored in the front. Is that gonna impede the contractor's ability to do the job? And then he has to haul material away and back in. That's gonna increase the cost of the job. It's gonna increase the cost on the people building the house, which are basically your constituents or future constituents if they don't live in town now. So my question is this talking about new construction, or are we talking about existing buildings and people storing stuff?
Should I go to Mr. Merritt with that? Is that, yes?
Moderator, it's involving existing buildings and the storage of materials, which is really kind of a curse on the community. It helps me do my job by having this bylaw in place. It's one other means by which I have the right to seek enforcement against an individual who just wants to store all kinds of junk on, whether it be in the front yard or the side yard, wherever it is. It's just now we're asking them, you have to screen it. That's all we're saying. You have to screen it. Otherwise, I don't think there's really anybody who wants to have a junkyard next to their property. It is a nice town. I agree with everything that's been said relative to it. This community, I enjoy working here as this community, but I also need the protection that the bylaws allow me to enforce the law the way it's written. And this just helps me do this. We've had a lot of comments about the property on South Main Street and other properties around town where people just come in and use the property just to store their surplus material. If they want to do that, that's fine. But in my opinion, I think it needs to be done in such a way as it's either inside the building or behind a fenced-in area.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt. Answer your question, Mr. Fredette. Yes.
After hearing Mr. Merritt's description, I'm in agreement with it, but I wasn't sure, and that's why I came.
Thank you, Mr. Fredette. Other discussion on Article 18? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote. Again, bylaw change. We need a 2/3 vote for this one. All in favor? And any opposed? Article passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Acushnet General Bylaws. Zoning Article 8 is the residential, it's a change to the residential village district bylaw, and it's regarding an upland circle. This is a change in the bylaw, again, would require a 2/3 vote. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, could I just have a point of clarification?
Yes.
I would like to offer a motion to table, but I recognize that I won't have I'll restrict my ability to explain that. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, motion to table can't.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to indefinitely postpone this warrant, this article.
Help me, help me. Going to some future time? Or do you want to reject that? What is your intent, Mr.?
I'm sorry?
He wants to have discussion.
You want to have discussion?
I'd like to my intent is to postpone this, but I'd like to be able to explain my rationale.
Okay, all right. Is there a second on the motion to indefinitely postpone?
Great.
Second, okay. Motion and second to indefinitely postpone. We don't need recommendations. Let's go to this.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. First of all, no affront to Mr. Merritt, the building inspector who advanced this. In the Board of Selectmen, we did look at it, we did talk about it, but since that time, I've received a number of phone calls from folks in town that this could negatively impact. Unlike the previous speakers with the common driveway, doesn't appear to be an immediate need to address this issue. We are going to do a review, and I would ask that we just give more time to properly vet this and determine what the impact will be to the town in general. I think the intention makes sense, but I just, out of respect for those residents and folks who are in the trades who've called, they'd like a little more opportunity to vet this properly. And that's my intention. That's what I wanted to share with the body this evening.
Further discussion on the motion to indefinitely postpone.
Good evening, my name is Mark Sonorizio, I'm on the planning board. If we table this, we can bring this back at the next one. You said, what was the terminology you said, Dave?
To postpone indefinitely, we could bring it back at the fall town meeting.
Postpone indefinitely does mean we can bring it back, correct?
Mark,
Yes, sir.
get town council's opinion on that.
How about we just table it?
Well, Mr. Moderator, we
it's
could
been dis-
strike down this motion and
Honest.
then offer a motion to table, correct?
We've got to vote, we got to vote on the motion on the floor, so we can't withdraw the motion. We got a motion on the floor, we got to vote. So, motion made and seconded.
There is a repetitive.
Yeah, please.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Sonorizio, there is a requirement that there not be repetitive petitions put before the planning board. However, unless it's the planning board that puts it forward. So I believe that you could, through the planning board process, put this back on the warrant next time around.
I just didn't know if the table is better than the terminology that David
I think
used.
postpone indefinitely is fine.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between the two, except for how it's treated here at town meeting.
Yeah, motion to table can't be debated, postpone indefinitely can. You're all testing me tonight, let me tell you. It really, Bob Francis would be proud, let me tell you. This has been a
Doing a
test
great
for
job,
tonight.
Roger.
We're doing
Doing
things
a
we've
great
never done
job.
here before. Mr. Cinerezio. So we're discussing the motion to postpone it indefinitely. Do you have comments on that?
Postpone it indefinitely and table is the same thing? Is that what I'm getting from town
Effectively,
council?
yes.
In essence, I will agree with postponing it then.
Further discussion on that motion? All in favor? Oh, Mr. Merritt, I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Moderator, I mean, this is kind of news to me. This is an article that we proposed almost 4 years ago. It's been bounced around. It never has made it to town meeting. To me, it's more importantly now associated with the village district, and that's all it relates to.
Yes.
But one of the things that I'm finding as your building commissioner is that you have really marginal pieces of land that people are trying to develop. And of course, in doing so, we're finding that these foundations now are actually going on grade, which means they're going up. So the grade now comes from the foundation and runs 6 feet down towards the wetland. This has no implication on anybody if you don't have wetland on the lot. And so what's happening is all your herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers are running into the streams and into the wetlands. I've reviewed this bylaw with the Conservation Commission. They all voted unanimously to approve it. I don't see any reason why we would want to table this now. It'll have a much bigger impact on us and does affect the biodiversity of the town. I mean, everything that we've done, everything that I've done is to try and help reduce our carbon footprint. I've brought over $1 million into the town in Green Communities funding to help reduce our energy costs. This is related to that. And I think it's important that we follow through and take a vote on it. If the majority of people here want to vote against it, I'm okay with that. But I think it needs to be heard by the people who are here at town meeting, not just a couple of developers who are out there who may call one of our selectmen and say, hey, I don't think this is right.
Thank you, Mr. Merritt.
Oh.
Other comments? So what the warrants, the articles not being considered, what's being considered right now is the motion to postpone this indefinitely, which would end discussion on this tonight. So I believe that's a two-thirds vote, right?
No, majority.
That's a majority vote, okay. So all in favor of the motion to postpone indefinitely, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. All right, back to the article. Is there a motion to approve Article 19?
Make a motion to approve Article 19, except I'd like to take a portion of that article out saying,
Well,
Have-
let's get the article on the table first before we
Okay.
motion to amend it. So we had a motion to approve Article 19. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. Finance Committee recommendation. The Planning Board recommends approval of the article, I suspect.
correct.
Okay, now you've got a proposed amendment to the article.
Proposed amendment, taking out having permitted use in any district. Taking that out of that section 3.3.4E, 6 upland circle, no dwelling, building, or structure shall be erected on a lot unless the lot has an area within its bounds which encompasses an upland circle with a minimum diameter equal to 90% of the required frontage, and within which the frontage or distance equal to the frontage at the front yard setback must pass.
Nothing's changed. You just read what it, you read what
I
it said.
just took out having permitted use in any district.
I don't see that here.
I have it in mind.
What
Okay,
is
but
it?
that's not what the article says. Okay, so,
Okay.
Wait a minute here.
yeah, so that, I don't think we need an amendment to what's in front of us here then.
So, Mr. Moderator?
Is that Mr. Warner?
Yes. So, I'm glad, thank you, Mark, for raising this issue. In an effort to sort of clear the air here, the folks who called were calling based on what they read in the advertisement, okay? So, I think the inference that I was advocating on behalf of developers, that's not, I think that's got like a little shady connotation. That's not the case, okay? They got bad information. What they read was wrong. And the fact that we're cleaning that up tonight, I think, is appropriate. So I was advocating those who got bad information. Thank you.
Thank you,
If I
Mr.
may,
Warner.
Mr. Moderator, this article,
So what was advertised in the paper? I don't know how you deal with that. But nothing needs to be amended that's in the warrant.
this particular article is only in the village district, correct, Bill?
This is the residential village district, correct?
Correct. I just want people to know that, not the whole town.
Yes.
And again, the confusion surrounding this was my motivation. Had nothing to do with advocating on behalf of developers, air quotes.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Other comments on Article 19? Okay, again, this is a proposed bylaw change which requires a two-thirds vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. The article passes with opposition, by a two-thirds vote with opposition. Article 20, see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Acushnet General Bylaws zoning Article 8, Section 3.3.1B by deleting subsection 13, which begins with light manufacturing, processing, and research. Basically, just deleting a section out of the existing bylaw. This is a bylaw change, requires a two-thirds vote. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we table this article.
Got a motion to table. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded to table the article. Motion to table, there can be no discussion. Requires a two-thirds vote. All in favor of tabling the article, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Passes by a two-thirds, passes unanimously. Article 20 has been tabled. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to amend the definition of street or way in the town of Acushnet general bylaws. And you can see below, there's a paragraph, the underlined section is being added to the existing section in the bylaws. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we table this article.
Motion to table, is there a second? Once again, motion to table, there can be no discussion, vote up or down. All those in favor of tabling Article 21, please raise your hand. All those opposed to table, please raise your hand. Motion passes by a 2/3 with opposition. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to amend the town of Acushnet general bylaws, soil conservation bylaw. And there's a big appendix 4 with, again, all of the proposed changes to the bylaw have been provided. A lot of detail there, but again, this is information that's available and distributed prior to town meeting. Is there a motion on Article 22?
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 22 as written in the warrant.
Is there a second on Article 22?
I'll second.
Finance Committee recommendation. Planning Board report and recommendation. It's general bylaw, so we don't need the Planning Board. Okay, my apologies. Discussion on Article 22. Mr. Fredette.
Hello, I'm not familiar with this article, and I was wondering if they could elaborate on it so I know what I'm voting on.
Yep.
Please.
Yep,
Thank you.
Mr. Fredette. Someone from the Board of Selectmen?
Who read the article? What, you on 22?
Article 22, that's the soil conservation bylaw.
Read it? Did you read that motion?
That's down there.
That's there.
Who?
Not here?
Yeah, he's right
Yeah,
there.
he's back.
Mr. Senorizio, did you want to?
Yes, I'd just like to know, this particular article, I believe, says soil conservation bylaw. Soil conservation will be taken out of aspect, and the selectmen will be taking this over. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think the first question was, Mr. Fredette asked to have what this was doing explained, so I think that's appropriate. We got a bunch of proposed changes we want to select.
Mr. Fredette, do you have the article?
The appendix.
So the impetus behind this reform, as you all know, what's taken place with PJ Keating. One, we've got a redundant process. We've got a soil board that ultimately is advisory in nature to the Board of Selectmen. This would cut out that process. In addition, it gives the town additional teeth to crack down on those who are violating either the bylaw or the law. Allows us to impose violations, fines for violations. As you know, PJ Keating's been an ongoing saga, and we believe that this bylaw, redoing this bylaw would give us the teeth that we need to address that situation.
Other questions on Article 22? Seeing none, we're going to put it to a vote. Again, requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The article passes by a 2/3 majority with opposition. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 110A, which deals with town hall hours, and I believe this, if the town hall's closed on a Saturday, it would move the date for last action on something that would have been performed on the Saturday to the following Monday, if town hall's closed. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Leaving me hanging.
I move Article 23 as written in the warrant, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of Article 23, please raise your hand. Again, this requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Simple majority. Okay, thank you. All those opposed? The article passes by a two-thirds majority with opposition. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to set the fee for a certified abutters list from the Board of Assessors to $25. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I moved Article 24 as written in the warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation. Motion made and seconded to set the fee for a certified abutters list for $25. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The article passes unanimously. Thank you. Next series of articles deals with Community Preservation Act funds. Article 25, to see if the town will reserve from fiscal year 22 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues $10,067 for administrative expenses and 10% for open space purposes, historic preservation, and affordable housing, and the remaining $130,859 for the budgeted reserve, or to take any other action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
I move the town vote with the recommendation of the CPC to reserve from FY 2022 Community Preservation Fund estimated revenues the sum of $10,067 for administration expenses, 10%, $20,133 for open space purposes, 10%, $20,133 for historic preservation, 10%, $20,133 for affordable housing, and the remaining $130,859 to the FY 2022 Community Preservation Fund budgeted reserve.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation? Motion made and seconded to allocate the fiscal 2022 Community Preservation Funds as detailed. Is there any discussion on the article? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Article passes unanimously. Another CPC article, Article 26, to see if the town will vote with the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee to transfer and appropriate the sum of $25,000 for improvements to the soccer fields at the Acushnet Elementary School. Is there a motion?
I move that the town vote to appropriate and transfer from Recreation the sum of $25,000 for the Community Preservation Fund budgeted reserve for the purpose of improving and rebuilding the soccer fields at the Acushnet Elementary School, located on 800 Middle Road, including all costs incidental and relative thereto.
Is there a second?
Second.
Finance Committee recommendation? Got a motion made and seconded to take $25,000 from the Community Preservation Fund budgeted reserves and spend on improvements at the soccer fields at the Acushnet Elementary School. Is there any discussion on the article? Mr. Rockcliffe? I'm all right. You're testing me here tonight. I know.
Gary Rockcliffe, Mecca Way in Acushnet. I understand the soccer fields and everything. I think it's great, and I can see spending the 25 grand. I often had tried to get those people their own soccer fields on a different parcel of property than the school. I was looking down on Hamlin Street at White's and everything. So I kind of just have the philosophy, we're going to invest 25 grand over there. I was just wondering how much of the rent that those people paid the school to use those fields
Talking to me, Mr. Rockcliffe.
is incorporated into the refund and doing the project over there. Are we getting anything back from the school to help do this too? Because they collected the rent. Thank you.
Mrs. Flynn, any response to that?
The Acushnet School Committee and the Acushnet School Department has an agreement with AYSA for the use of the soccer field. The agreed upon amount for this year is $6,000 in rental fees, and that covers the maintenance of the soccer field, the cutting and the trimming, strictly covering our costs to do that.
Thank you, Mrs. Flynn. Other comments on Article 26? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Article passes, majority vote with opposition. Article 27, CPC article, spending $10,000 of the budgeted reserves of the Community Preservation Fund for resurfacing the basketball courts at Pope Park. Is there a motion?
I move that the town vote to appropriate and transfer recreation the sum of $10,000 for the Community Preservation Fund budgeted reserve for the purpose of repairing and resurfacing basketball courts at Pope Park, located at 96 Pope Street, including all costs incidental and related thereto.
Is there a second to the motion? Finance Committee recommendation. We had a motion made and seconded to spend $10,000 from CPC reserve funds to resurface the basketball courts at Pope Park. Is there any discussion on the article? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Article passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 28, we did. Article 29, we did. Article 30 deals with revolving funds that have been established for, previously established in prior years for different departments in town. The Public Library, Conservation, Park and Recreation, Council on Aging allows them to use funds that are collected in fees in operation. And this designates the maximum amount that can be spent for that purpose. Is there a motion to approve?
I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator. Just making sure we still had 50 people left in the room so we could continue.
We can continue unless somebody challenges the quorum.
And we're on Article 30.
I think we're good. Good. I'm eyeballing it. But I think
Okay,
we're good.
very good. I see a lot of people leaving. I move that the town fix the maximum amount that may be spent during fiscal year 2022, beginning on July 1st, 2021, for the revolving funds established in town bylaws for certain departments, boards, committees, agencies, or offices in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E1/2, as presented in Article 30 of the May 10, 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation? Motion made and seconded to approve Article 30, which would allocate revolving funds to 4 departments in town. Is there any discussion? Put it to a vote. All in favor? This requires 2/3?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh, it does. Okay. Requires a 2/3 vote. Any opposed? Okay. Passes by a 2/3 majority without opposition, unanimously. Okay. Just, All right, Article 31 is going to create a new revolving fund, so we approved the funding for 4 of them. This is a 5th one that's going to be created for the recycling center. Going to set the maximum expenditure at $10,000. So just like the 4 that we approved, this is a new one that's being created for the recycling center. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend the Town of Acushnet general bylaws by adding a new fund to the table in Article 21 as described in Article 31 of the May 10, 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant, and fix the maximum amount that they may be spent for this revolving fund during fiscal year 2022, beginning on July 1st, 2021, to $10,000.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation? Thank you. Got a motion made and seconded to create a new revolving fund with a maximum of $10,000 to support the recycling efforts of the Department of Public Works. Any discussion on the article? All those in favor? And this requires a 2/3 vote. Any opposed? Article passes unanimously. Article 32 is done. Article 33, to see if the town will vote to establish an infrastructure capital expense stabilization fund where we'll reserve funds for capital expenditures included but not related to transportation infrastructure, streets and sidewalks, water and sewer infrastructure, energy infrastructure, and telecommunications infrastructure, and to transfer from available fund a sum or sums of money into said fund, or to take any other action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Is this number 32?
33. 32.
Sorry. Moderator, I move that the town establish an infrastructure capital expense stabilization fund pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5B, effective for fiscal year 2022, beginning on July 1st, 2021, for the purpose of funding major improvements to the town's physical infrastructure, including but not limited to transportation infrastructure such as streets and sidewalks, water and sewer infrastructure, energy infrastructure, telecommunications infrastructure, and to transfer from free cash the sum of $500,000 to be added to this fund.
Is there a second? Finance Committee recommendation? Got a motion made and seconded to establish an infrastructure capital expense stabilization fund and to transfer from free cash the sum of $500,000 to that fund. This is a vote that this is an article that will require a 2/3 vote. Is there any discussion? Let's put it to, you coming to the mic?
Main Street, just for clarification, once this is established, this expense account, is this something that would be expected to be there every year? Would we expect it to be added on to this? Like we're taking $500,000, making this expense account, so next year will this expense account be there? And will we have to keep adding to that? Will this be something new for the town?
So, Mr. Moderator? So to answer that question is, I talked earlier when we talked about the school department's budget and having a bunch of extra money and things of that nature. So when you have free cash in the amounts and the equivalents that we did from previous cuts, we thought it would be a good idea to create a stabilization fund, a second stabilization fund, just for infrastructure projects, things that are mentioned here. Some of them that go into the telecommunication aspect of it and energy infrastructure. Is just an extra branch. It gives us the ability to spend on that, but it's just a starting point of $500,000. And if we ever put anything else in it again, that remains to be seen, depending on the financial condition of the town in the future. But this is a great start for us to start doing more of infrastructure projects. We spend, as we all know, roughly $32 million, and we don't put much back into ourselves. We talked about investing in our schools and our children and things of that. But we also have a big infrastructure in this town that we need to invest in, because without the infrastructure, what good is the town if we don't have a good infrastructure? So it's time for us to start investing in infrastructure and be more dedicated at it. And we have the extra cash, so we figured we'd start a stabilization account to do just that. And if we have extra money down the road, we can always put more money in it and keep it going. But if we don't, then we stop where we are. We have $500,000 to help some people out where we have some really bad infrastructure in place. And we all know we have a lot of bad infrastructure in the town of Acushnet. And I addressed that when I spoke with my DPW director, Dan Menard, with his budget. So I think we're on the right track. I think that we need to stay on that track, and we need to continuously invest in it, because we all drive down our roads and we all live on the side roads that are falling apart and decrepit. And it's time that we start taking that a lot more seriously in that, and our water infrastructure. I talked about 100-year-old water pipe in the town of Acushnet, and Slocum Street's probably one of the worst. We have sidewalks on Slocum Street that people can't even walk on, they're not handicap accessible. The water infrastructure up Slocum Street's 100 years old, so it's time that we start investing again in our community. 32 million bucks, and we don't do much of that. So that's the creation of the stabilization, is trying to move this town forward and get the residents what they deserve, good infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Gasper. Mr. Fredette, you going to the microphone? Okay.
I think this is very good spending of our town money. We have water mains in town that have leaks. We're paying for water from the city of New Bedford that isn't being delivered to our constituents that buy water, and we're paying for this. So every time you can repair a water, or I should say, every time you have a water main that's leaking, that's money that's unrecoverable. If we can get the leaks fixed by updating some of the older pipe, we will start achieving some payback. It may take a long time, but anything we can do to spend money to upgrade the water service in town is going to be money well spent for the constituents.
Thank you, Mr. Fredette. Other comments on Article 33? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote, and this will require a 2/3 majority. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. The article passes by a 2/3 majority with opposition. Article 34, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or otherwise provide sum or sums of money to transfer to the OPEB fund, or to take any other action therein or in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $100,000 to be added to the town's OPEB fund.
Is there a second? Motion made and seconded to transfer $100,000 from free cash to the town's OPEB fund. Is there any discussion? This is a majority vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Article 35, and do we have a number for this article? Was it just delivered? It was just delivered, okay.
is.
Article
Mr. Moderator.
35 to see, thanks, Bill.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $45,605 to be added to the town's general stabilization account.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion, Finance Committee recommendation. Motion made and seconded to transfer $45,000 from free cash to the town's general stabilization fund. Is there any
45
discussion?
45,000 even, Mr. Moderator?
$45,605.
605, correct.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Article passes with opposition. Article 36, to see if the town will vote to adopt the resolution outlined in Appendix 5 of the 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant, or to take any action therein or in relation to thereto. Is there a motion?
Moderator, I move that the town recognize and express our gratitude to those employees, board, and commission members who completed their services to the town in the calendar year 2020, and to those who have faithfully served in the past years but have sadly passed away in calendar year 2020 by the adoption of the resolution as shown in Appendix 5 of the 2021 Annual Town Meeting warrant.
There, second. Town meeting, Finance Committee recommendation. Any discussion?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
seeing how there's not an annual report, it is in the back of this book here. You want to reference that, the resolution's in the back for everybody to know who served and who had passed. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Gasper. With no discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. With no additional business to come before us, is there a motion to dissolve the meeting? Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Have a good evening.